are you building up to that?
No, how do you all follow Twitter? I don't have, do I have those there? I do have those. Will you put up on Twitter? Thank you. So there will be a Hall of Fame spot in the Gunston hallway. We're looking at a couple of spots. Each inductee will receive a plaque, and a matching plaque will be put in the Gunston hallway. Thank you. Hang on, let me follow one thing, and then I'll share all the names. That'll be the big finish. So we are ready to go. Our big hiccup now is we have all of our fundraising letters and our sponsorship things ready to go, and we have nowhere for people to contribute. So I spoke with Susie earlier about having a donation link through the WABC, because apparently you can't really do the money through the school accounts because it has to be for current students, and these are not current students. So the WABC has a little bit more wiggle in what its agenda is. It's celebrating West Potomac athletics, and it doesn't say today. So the donations would go directly through this link, and then they would be dispersed to the committee. The budget for the Hall of Fame was also over there. So I wanted to ask if we could, and I don't know if we need to vote on if we need to create a link, but I would like to move forward with creating a link.
I think we'll take a motion, so it's got it.
On the website, that's what we want.
Yeah, and we will then in our paperwork, put that link in that would take people right to there, if that is doable. So you want a motion for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I make the motion.
Do I hear a second? Any questions, amendments?
This totals for everyone, the 10 inductees, right?
That's for everyone,
Okay.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
not per person.
And before we do vote, what's the Hall of Fame plan to get people to make donations to it?
Well, that's what we just voted on, I thought, was to add that.
To drive people to the link.
To drive people to the link, it is to help fund the plaques, to help pay for the dinner,
No, I know, but this is what it will pay for, but is there a strategy
I'm gonna get that, sure.
to let people know they can make a contribution to this important effort?
You've been adding to that.
Yeah, well, the plan is to advertise who the inductees are, to kind of put this canvassing out, and I'll tell you, on my little small world, I will take our flyer and put it on the listserv, and I think alumni will be happy to, and current parents will be happy to celebrate.
You're gonna create
And Dale is on the committee as well.
Daryl's got his entrepreneurship going where he's got a thing where
Daryl Mackey, faculty, former coach.
he wanted to head up the fundraising, and he's got this elaborate plan. He's already got $1,000 raised. Part of it is a little more detailed because he wants to get a volleyball, basketball type score table we run. Like, I think the one you have now still, is it the old one, David, where it's still just a light behind it? This one would be like a scoreboard kind of thing,
Running,
where he can then run the,
like a live playing ads, is his ultimate
Oh,
vision
for the inside.
for the inside.
so part of the fundraising deal through this is he wants to get that table so that he can promise the people they'll get advertisement through that. He seems to think he can get more than enough money to cover the table and the cost that.
And he wants to hit the Chamber of Commerce, and he has that's
Okay.
his,
Yeah.
I hope to hit some local people, friends, family, fellow alumni, and say, hey, this is a great thing, we've had this school for 30 years, and we are gonna start losing our history. Some people are like we need to capture our history before it's too late, and 30 years seems like we've been in existence long enough that we should.
Can I jump in? First of all, it's, thank you guys who did the work on the Hall of Fame. It's a great thing that we're doing this. The entering class, they all look terrific. It's overdue, it's great we're doing it. I do wanna make sure that whatever we do in terms of fundraising is congruent with what WABC is doing and not in conflict. So maybe we can set up a meeting of Hall of Fame folks and WABC folks to kind of deconflict any potential problems before we do new corporate sponsorships or anything like that, because that could kind of get directly in the WABC zone. I think there's a way to do it where it's makes sense.
And I think together is where this is gonna be the most powerful.
Is there a possibility that this year, because it's the first year, that it could be something on the membership box that, if you sign up for the $150 family membership, that I'd like to make a $25 donation to the Hall of Fame.
That's a good idea.
Just to kind of premise a way to kind of get people.
And it also would let people see that it's coming, that it's
Yeah.
it's being established.
It doesn't
So-
have to be a number. You
So
can
again,
do
I
whatever.
think that's a great idea. Let's have that group kind of come up with a way that makes sense for everyone, that's coherent with what we're doing. We need a new sponsorship person. Diane is, moving on to do other stuff. We need someone to replace her. We have to do that before we can get into any of this stuff, I think. So I don't want this thing to kind of get ahead of where we are. So with that caveat, does anyone have any other questions on adding a link to our website so we can raise money for next
But
steps?
they're
for
gonna
all
have
of
their
it?
own website too, is what you just said, right? They're gonna have a Hall of Fame website, or not? I thought you said that.
We're gonna, just put it.
I think you were gonna have a Hall of Fame tab on the West Potomac
Okay,
website,
that's better.
not a separate,
Yeah,
it'll
that's
be part of
better.
West
That's
Potomac.
right,
Right,
okay.
sorry. It's a lot of
So now
technology.
we can vote.
And Molly, how did you guys resolve the growth support fund thing?
We decided kind of unanimously at the beginning that this is West Potomac's Hall of
Okay.
Fame, and we're celebrating the we of now.
Yeah, that's fine. I just
And-
know there was a big discussion about it.
Yeah,
when it
and-
came up.
We didn't wanna cloud issues, but we're celebrating what's here and what we have created over the last 30 years, and, and that is the mission of this committee, I think. So,
All
it'll
right,
be separate.
let's vote on the link and then see if there's other issues people want to talk about. All in favor of supporting a link on our fundraising page for the Hall of Fame, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Ayes have it. All right, so we're good on that. Other Hall of Fame issues you want to discuss?
Yeah, I did wanna say, since it is the infancy, we are at the point of, we need to make some deposits, we need to get going, and we didn't know if, since this is the first one, in our research, most schools, the Athletic Booster Club and the Halls of Fame collaborate. And I didn't know if there was any way that we had any funds that might be able to infuse us at the beginning, knowing that, that the mission is, the vision is this score table that will allow more sponsorship that could ultimately benefit everybody. But just, we're right here at the beginning of, we've gotta pay some deposits, and we have $1,000 committed, we haven't yet got our hands on it because we don't have an avenue yet to receive it, yes. So, so I wanted to,
Do you think this is gonna be the budget plus the electronic thing, 5,000?
5,000 will cover this dinner and the induction and and anything that is collected beyond this
Will go
5150 will
towards
go toward that fancy
So
table.
if we had so are you asking us to, we can easily make it a restricted fund and put it in QuickBooks under us, it's not a big deal, like we treat it like the next team, like they get them, we keep it for them and they take it in.
And that's kind of what would
That's easy.
be,
We can do
yeah,
that
and
right
if the
away.
link
I don't
would
need
do
to-
that.
We need to vote on that. The link won't actually do it, put it in the calendar.
Okay,
We don't have to do
thank
it.
you. In
But-
advance.
But are you asking more for, will WABC give us a starter?
Yes, if the WABC is in a financial position that they have some money that they would be willing to say, hey, here, we'd like to send you off on a flight, we would like to do that, if there are funds. So, and I didn't put an amount on it because I don't wanna,
The idea would be any money spent by WABC to help the Hall of Fame would be backfilled by fundraising done by the link on the website.
no, I'm saying if you would like to give us some money,
To start them off.
to start that off, yeah.
Okay.
As clearly as I can say, it, we have no money at this moment, you've now authorized us to have a link to collect some money.
Presidential, whatever that means, your little. And
What's
just,
the presidential thing?
there's like a little presidential.
You see the money for that,
I do.
Hall of Fame, look at that.
Yeah.
Who's on the list?
Okay, the list.
That's all I care about right now.
It's locked, hold on.
I would say that, this paper, this, profit and loss thing, that would
rolling. So I would need a $500 donation, just like we did for the grad party. I'm okay with that, it's just starting at that. You start that, and then you guys say, we're, need more, you come back for more. But I think a $500 small thing.
Okay, what I'm hearing is we plausibly could give $500 to the Hall of Fame to help get
Well,
things
I just
going.
threw that number out, it was much, I would say start with that, and if you guys keep things rolling, and it looks like it's, you need more, then you come back for more, but you might find that once you start.
Yeah, and I think we don't really know what the,
Right, yeah.
I mean, we're a flying blind, but in the meantime, we've gotta get the platform, we've gotta get the,
I think 500 seems kind of low if you're trying to pay the bill.
Well, I was in the back of my mind thinking you already had 1,000. We're gonna have 1,000, yes. That's why I started low.
Is it gonna always be 10?
No,
It's not always gonna be 10?
it's not always gonna be 10. And is that in the bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 10 and then 10 and then it drops to 5.
So we could, WABC could cover the plaques every year then, whatever that cost is, so we could say 1,000 this year. Or not.
Yeah, I don't wanna lock anyone into I'm open for a discussion. I just feel like I think it's important that the WABC, that has the big A in it, athletics, nothing celebrates the big A more than Hall of Fame, right? So I think it's important that we partner in some way, and whether it is a flat sum, or it is a thing, or it is a whatever, I don't know what's the best, so that's why I open it to all of you wise people.
Well, all those schools that you guys researched, what do they do?
Well, there's varying degrees, but some of them have the Hall of Fame in their annual, as a line item in their budget every year. Some
In the booster club.
in the booster club, sorry, in the booster club budget. And some, cover a thing, like Kelly was saying, we'll cover
Like
this.
Chantilly, I was shocked to find that you have a Hall of Fame, but it's a one class only. Because, when he went and took over the DSA job, they had the Hall of Fame and everything rolled around. There was no fundraising, nothing got done, he got stuck with everything. So there hasn't been a Hall of Fame since, it's just that one class. And I believe it's exactly what it is, when somebody finds something that'll work, then I'll be invested in it. Chantilly.
So, my perspective on this is, it absolutely is a partnership between WABC and the Hall of Fame. I think it's terrific this is happening. I think we can demonstrate support for that, either $500 or $1,000 if someone wants to make a motion. But I do think, as we recommended a few months ago, the Hall of Fame trustees have an opportunity to raise money for this enterprise. Like, it's a thing people will want to support. So I am hopeful, as the person who is, at least in part, responsible for WABC dollars, that we can maximize whatever fundraising comes out of the Hall of Fame itself, so it's not something that we have to sustain on a regular basis. That is the ideal to me. Now, if it turns out that we've got a plan and we're executing, we don't quite get there, then maybe WABC can play a role, a supportive role. But I think that it's something that the Hall of Fame should seize and raise money for directly. I mean, it's an event people are going to want to go to, they're going to want to support, they're going to love seeing everyone standing up at the football game or whatever it is. It's a thing that will drive some dollars. So my thought is we make an initial contribution tonight, if that's where people are. But I think it's incumbent, I would hope the trustees can kind of come back with a concrete plan to make this thing self-sustaining going forward. That's my view.
Well, I think that's what it said. We're not gonna come back and say, that we do 5,000 every year.
No.
But yet, didn't you just say that all the schools do receive
But
support from?
I think what would
athletic
be,
clubs?
like, if we do a sum this year, then this year is a partnership, then any subsequent year it is a separate entity, and it's not a partnership, because I think a partnership has some connection to one another, and whether it is a $200 or I don't know, but to me, a partnership is an ongoing thing, it's not a one-time thing.
Are you in terms of money or just in terms of partnership? I mean, what do you?
Well, it's already a partnership because the president is on the board, right?
Well, Molly-
I am not the
Molly's our
president,
designated.
no.
We'll give you some money.
We'll give you $1,000.
That is not how things are supposed to work. So in my mind, a partnership is, you know, the boosters would be acknowledged, would be recognized, thank you, you know, here's our Hall of Fame, we'd like to thank the Booster Club for helping us, we'd like to continuing to build great athletes, great athletics at West Potomac, and it's not a one and done. But I don't think we have to decide that tonight. I think that's a vision for later.
But
I
you're
think-
right in that. These are, we're also gonna have to go to some other advertisers for golf, the golf tournaments, or for our fundraising and for your fundraising. So we do have to find a way to make it work, because village hard work can only be hit up so many times, you know? And we gotta make sure that it goes to the right pots, and maybe it does become a line item in the future. And if we get village hardware, somebody big to donate something, and we say to them, you're, not only are you giving us $8,000, but 1,000 of it is going to the Hall of Fame, and the other is going to the baseball field or whatever, right? So it probably will.
So, I think in the here and now for tonight, we would be just deciding what is happening for this year.
Okay. Someone wanna make a motion?
I make a motion for the link on the West Potomac.
We're already done.
And to make a motion that we give a dollar amount, I would say $1,500 would be generous, but it gives you a little cushion, is where I start, but we need to get to the number.
Discussion?
No, and hopefully we'll get more, but we also, it's almost August, and this event's in October. And it's gonna come quick once school starts.
When do you have to have money for a deposit for the restaurant?
I think they would like it sooner rather than later, because I think they're closing the restaurant for that night for us. So Mr. Beebe has been, he's partnered with Myron Nixon. I don't even, is Myron the new guy's name?
It's the guy that owns it.
That's his name, it's
The
Myron?
guy that runs it's the guy
Or
that
did he just
Chris
name
Best
it?
said.
That's his
The
name.
guy comes in once a month, the big.
Yeah, the BB has like a track reunion thing once a month.
Right, so he's very, I mean, he loves to do that too, but I think he would like for us to lock in and give him some money for it. I mean, he's already committed to the date, but
So that's $750. I mean, that's less than 15. And that would at least cover the reception, and that part would be solidified.
But I guess part of the problem is too, depending on what the decision is with donating to all these different things and whether you can get enough of that money, you don't wanna become stuck either with,
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
I
are we
would
gonna be
go
able to
with
sell
thousands.
this?
Well, unless I'm wrong, Mr. Nelson, one of the things with Aaron being on the committee and Daryl both, whatever is being done fundraising wise, I mean, Aaron's in charge of fundraising here at the school. It all runs through the office, at least it's supposed to be done, so he should be aware of any conflict of interest or any
No.
over.
Aaron doesn't do the fundraising for us.
Oh, no, I mean, with you all, but if you tell him what it is you're using, it's certainly not a problem to keep that off limits.
I'm not sure where you're going with that, but what we need to
No, but
do is.
sir, you don't wanna double dip one source. If you have a source, you shouldn't be infringing on it.
That's why you
yeah, and that's
Well,
what we need to
what we need to do, the only way to really solve that is to have the folks from Hall of Fame who are doing the fundraising, and then sit down with key folks from WABC, including our new sponsorship person, which hopefully will be resolved soon, and kind of work out the plan of attack. Aaron does a lot of great stuff with the school, that's not one of the things he does. So we need to have that conversation. He's more than welcome to come, but that's between, I think, Hall of Fame folks and what your fundraising plan is, and then our folks and what our fundraising plan is. Make sure they're deep, but it's possible we go to the same people twice, because we know they'll be okay with it. It's other folks where we know that, hey, they don't wanna be asked twice, so we don't wanna go ask them twice. You know,
So
and
we
that's
just
stuff
need to
we
be
should be able
deliberate
to
in
sort
that.
out, we just gotta sit down and kind of go through it. We have a little work to do on our end, because we don't have a sponsorship person right now.
And when you do, she's coming from Georgia. She doesn't know any of the players.
That's right, but she's
So,
gonna get up to
she's
speed
gonna be
real
able to
fast
step
as soon as she
back.
has to.
Yes.
So, all right, so the motion on the floor is for $1,500. Do we want to amend that to 1,000?
What do you feel better?
You're the
money
I would
lady.
feel more, I would feel better at 1,000, and I would feel better at that, or 1,500, and then you said, if we get to our 550, whatever, we'll give you the 500. I would be okay with that.
Why don't we do this?
1,500 and say, maybe we get 500.
Why don't we do 1,000 tonight? We'll kind of see where things go for the Hall of Fame. We will meet every month going forward, and if we need to backfill, we can. So let's do 1,000 now, because we feel secure about that.
That would be great. And then it doesn't have to be a payback, but we would just come ask if we, for some reason, we're So,
All right, all in favor of spending $1,000 on the Hall of Fame initiative? All opposed? All right, the motion passes. Oh,
all right.
I already figured it out now.
Oh, you already got it?
Yeah, who voted on it, by the way? How did that get fixed?
So each person on the committee, filled out the nomination form. The nomination form was presented in May. And in the bylaws, it goes through the voting process. And it was, vote. If it was a family member, if it was you were not allowed to vote.
Right.
And
I'm just wondering, like, Carol Horton's not on there? She's like a creative field hockey Fairfax County.
I play field hockey.
But Dan Myers is on there.
The two
Who ran a
coaches,
Ponzi scheme or something.
the two coaches who are on are the two coaches who have state championships. And I think,
But Horton has multiple state championships.
Why don't you
No,
leave the names?
yeah, I will leave the names.
Really?
Only regional.
Only
Oh.
regional
We got a state
final.
runner-up.
State
Wow,
runner-up,
that's what it is.
back in the glory days.
I mean, she's the Star Carl before Star Carl, if you knew Star Carl. She's the one who did all Westfield and Chantilly.
Carol's an amazing person. So Billy Beal graduated in 1995. He played basketball, football, and baseball. Katie Beal, played soccer, field hockey, and basketball. Don Beebe was a coach of cross-country, winter and spring track, and won a state championship. Jeff Dietze was the only other DSA other than Aaron. So Jeff retired and Aaron took over. Chrissy Edmondson graduated in 91. She was track and field hockey. Mary Fedor was the certified athletic trainer. She is the one for whom the gym was named by the school board.
My wife was it.
Another amazing person. And she was a biology teacher here. Tiame Hurd graduated in 91. She was a track runner and an Olympian. Dan Meyer was the first football coach of West Potomac and won one of the 2 state championships. Willie Pyle played football and basketball and played in the NFL. Ann Roseman graduated in 87. She played field hockey, basketball, and softball. And this is just a tweet, and it lists sort of in bullet form, but these people have been all met in multiple sports and all region and, I mean, all everything, and.
Well, the good thing is all those coaches that left, they still went and became one more and more at the next high school.
Right,
So it shows that they.
So I think it's an accomplished group of people who really are worthy and, and there were names on the list that were nominated that did not get in. And if you read the bylaws, a name stays on for 3 years. Okay, see some of this. So a name will stay on for 3 years. So if they didn't get in this year, they're on the list along with any other nominees. And that process will be used in subsequent years.
And after 3 years, they would have to be renominated.
Gotcha.
Right, so.
That's nice though, because if you have so many, I mean, especially since you have 30 years almost.
Right.
So you have a lot of touch.
Right, so this is 1985 to what was the last one? 92? No, 02. So we covered a
You did
big
cover it, yeah.
chunk, and that's why it's 10 nominees the first 2 years, and then it drops to up to 5. And we wrote it specifically so that it's up to 5, because the criteria to be nominated are really stringent. Or not, okay. And so you don't want to water down the credentials to get 5. So it's, in subsequent years, it's up to 5. And this, again, all of these bylaws were not, happened to come like they were researched
Is
and.
that accurate, maybe coach until 2015?
Yeah, he just retired.
Yeah, he was here the first day of right?
I have a couple questions, if you don't mind me asking a question or two. And I'm looking at the bylaws. It says a few things in here, seeking nominations of candidates for the Hall of Fame and researching background materials. And I wondered, so I have a few questions. So I wondered, where was the seeking nominations part? Because I never heard anything about anything, and I've been here 15 years, so I've been here about half the year time the school's open. The athletes' criteria seems it's not really you had to do one of those things. First team, all region, all met, all state. That's clear. I think that's pretty clear. Professional team, Olympian, world record holder, scholarship athletes. But there's player of the year in there. It just seems a little broad. The administrator, contributor has it says I made an outstanding contribution. So I just wondered, what does that mean to have an outstanding contribution? I'm sure there's specifics. I'm just wanted to ask. And then there isn't. I noticed on the committee there isn't even a current coach on the committee, and there are coaches in the building that have been here for 12 years and up. And I just wondered. It seems like the last person is 09, I think you said maybe. I would assume it's 5 years once you've graduated. Like most things, it's 5 years once you've graduated before you're eligible. So it seems like it's a 16 year gap with a lot of athletes, and that makes sense since there's not a current coach on there that's been coaching in the last 12 years or so. So I brought years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, I brought it up. Molly, you and I had a conversation outside about the Hall of Fame. I'm part of the coaching collaborative. I've talked to me and Dana Hubbard have come and talked to you guys about that. We met with the coaches throughout the year. We met with the DSA and the principal throughout the year, and then neither Dana nor I, she's been here 12 years, I've been here 15. Even knew that there were meetings happening or votes happening or nominations happening, and so I wonder is there a way that there's some voting? Is there numbers who didn't get in? How many percentage people got vote? And I noticed some people that are on the committee are also nominated and in the first class of the Hall of Fame, which I think just on the surface. It's a lot of them. I know BB's on the committee. I know DT's on the committee. I know Beal is on the committee. And, there's 2 Beal children in, and DT's in, and BB's in. So I just think, I'm just wondering. A few things. That was a lot.
All right.
Please.
Yeah, and I'll start with the first 2 years, it's the committee creates the nominees. The vision is that it starts at the beginning of the school, and we're gonna catch up. And I think the people, Dale has a kind of a little bio of the committee members. And I think the committee is comprised of people who were there for the early years and worked in that athletic arena.
So it's not really a hall for the entirety of the school, just the first half of the school.
No, it's not. The Hall of Fame, which you're looking at right now, is the idea behind this initial class is that we're looking to get the first years of the school, where as in the future of the school is obviously going to be acknowledged and going to be celebrated, but we want to start with that beginning, and then we're going to move to the present.
And I think we'll catch all those people.
Everyone's gonna, I mean, those who are deserving are going to get in. We're not gonna, no one's gonna get snubbed out of the Hall of Fame. It's just, we're looking at the first class. We have to start somewhere. We have to start with the first class. We need to look at the history of the school and where the school started. And we can see that, I mean.
Well, just speaking for the basketball program only, I take meticulous stats. We had a guy who led the school in scoring for 28 years. And his record was broken this year by Daryl Mackey Jr. And he's not even, but there is a basketball person and he's not that person. And at the inaugural, and he graduated in 91, so according to what you're saying, that's, enough time. So the inaugural class should seem to be, whatever sport, the likely best person of that sport. And if a person has a record for 28 years, that's a long record. I just, according to what you're saying, that is kind of an exception to the rule almost.
It's not necessarily chronological, and it's not like we're gonna do the class of 85, 86, and then the class of 86, 87. It's in these windows, and the committee has kind of expertise in the early years of West Potomac. And I think, I wholeheartedly believe that we're gonna catch, I feel like I have kind of a unique perspective on this because I went to school the second, third, fourth, and fifth years of West Potomac. And then I had about 10 or 15, probably about when you came, David, I stepped out and then I came back as a parent. And I will say, the village is awesome, and I have lived and looked in the Gazette and followed West Potomac sports, and I think there's only great things to be said, and the people that are on this committee, or in this first class, have demonstrated amazing credentials, and not to take away from the basketball player who had the record, because he may come in the next class, or the next class. Because the door is not gonna get shut on a year. It's not like, oh, we're doing the first 10 years, or we're doing the second 10 years. But it's naturally started at the beginning of the school.
And there weren't just 10 people nominated, we voted all these people in. There was a whiteboard full of people.
Who filled the whiteboard?
Who actually wrote that night?
No, like, who came up with those names?
The 8 people in the committee meeting.
Right, but this thing says it's seeking nominations. That's what you guys have on your bylaws, that initially the trustees will be tasked with nominating as well as seeking nominations of candidates for the Hall of Fame and with researching background material on each candidate. So had I been asked, I would have for sure said, hey, there's this guy who has set the record for 28 years.
Assuming he wasn't nominated, which I can't tell you if he was or wasn't.
Well, how come? Well, okay.
Because I don't want to we decided we didn't want to throw somebody's name out there. They didn't get inducted, and now they feel slighted, or somebody looks at them like, oh, that one's better. If you follow the social media now, the 1985-86 first-year football team is irate that all their kids aren't on the thing. And one guy, I believe the quote was, who is Willie Pye? I'm not saying Willie's the greatest player, but how does he not even know?
Is there, can I ask this question? Don Beebe, who I don't know, it says here he was coach until 2015. Is that right? It also, the bylaws say you're not eligible until you're 5 years removed from West Potomac High School.
He's been retired since.
But was he a coach until 2015?
When did what Dietz come in? Because when Dietz came in, Beebe went out, right?
No, that's not right. No, that's not right. When she came, he worked with her, so they worked together for a while, for a couple years.
Don quit coaching cross country. He had Sarah Jane's first year, so that was 08, and then he stopped. He did not do winter, and he still teach. I mean, he's been a teacher at West Potomac.
He taught until 2015.
Right, but he was a coach till 08.
I think the idea is that what I'm reading you guys said is you have to start somewhere, right? So you have to say was this, and they're not going to say who didn't make it because maybe they're in round 2 for next year type of thing. That's how I'm interpreting it. And you can't say, well, we're gonna have 50 people, and we don't wanna know who didn't make it, because you're gonna hold some, not gonna hold them back, but there's another chances to come. That's kind of, I appreciate you guys putting effort out to start it, because we have it there, we're gonna fund it for a little bit. And I think at some point, we just have to say they had to start someplace, that's how I understand it.
And the biggest thing is, it's just like, with 34 years of school, and then backtrack 5 because you got to be out of high school for 5 as a kid, they're gonna be, I mean, there's an astounding number of kids that have gone to school that have done amazing things. You put 100 kids in the first year, and then it's ridiculous. And that was the thing, it's just like, put the people up, we vote, and whoever comes out, and it wasn't like anyone thought anyone on the board wasn't any good, because you didn't get on the board unless you were very, very, very good.
It seems like if you want to acknowledge more athletes, and it wouldn't have been maybe 60-40 athlete administrators / coaches.
Well,
So there's,
the adults are gonna die out a lot quicker than the kids are going to. There's
so
way more kids.
oh, so that's, okay, I'm just trying to understand the purpose, all right. So we're not really, so the athletic part, I thought, all right, well, it's 6 players and 4 coaches / administrators / I'm not sure what Mary Feeder.
Mary Feeder is postponed, she passed away.
Yes.
She's been, her name is on the gym.
Yeah, and I don't even remember how that happened.
Fully vetted and perfectly a wonderful candidate for this process.
Okay.
So I don't think we need to discuss her.
I'm not trying to discuss her. I'm just saying there are 6 athletes and 4 non-athletes in the first class. And if we're trying to highlight the first class, why, I wonder, weren't there more athletes? That way, maybe some of those people, like I just said, may have gotten in there in the first class.
I can tell you that it wasn't like the adults are put up, we vote. Contributors or coaches, we didn't vote 3 different selections. It was, here's all the people. And I'm telling you, there are some outstanding people that I'm sure will get in next year, but who's to say? And the guy you're talking about is completely, I don't disagree, I was a huge fan. But you can't put every kid in the first year. You can't put there's gonna be some adults. Why didn't they get in? They should have gotten in. We already heard that here at the table tonight. Well, they didn't.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions, concerns?
So I hope that we take away from this that, I feel like this has sort of become, I don't know, a little bit prickly, but I hope that the takeaway is that we've celebrated, we've recognized 10 amazing people. None of this has been arrived at without a lot of thought, without a lot of consideration, and really wanting to represent the school in the best light. So, you know, I feel like it's kind of a weird to be on the committee and on this board. And I am like a nervous replay my life every night before I go to bed. Think, oh my gosh, I wonder if they took that wrong. I wonder if, and it feels really good every night. I feel good about everything that the Booster Club is doing, and I feel really, really good about what the Hall of Fame is doing and has done and will continue to do. And I really hope that people will walk away from tonight thinking, this is a really good thing. And the first time you do anything, it's gonna ruffle feathers and it's gonna be uncomfortable. And hopefully as the process becomes smoother and as we, you know, as we're familiar with it, it's a change, it's something unknown, but as it becomes tradition, we'll know that we were sort of at the beginning of something really good. So.
Does this
What's up?
ever open up to allowing others? not-
Yes.
Is it
I'm only on this
closed?
year and then I'm off.
So every year, might be a
and-
new.
The reason most of the people, I think I wrote it on there, got selected is maybe 6 years ago, I got a call to come meet with Daryl and Aaron Helmick, the DSA. And what did I want to do and blah, blah, blah. It was a good idea, and it just kind of floated, and Daryl was way ahead of it. So some of it, they just had a long way to go. Barb Mahoney, who used to be here, did a bunch of research into different things. Then she left, and all the stuff she had vanished. So it's been a slow, long process. The standing members that always should be on it would be the DSA, not by name, but by position. The booster president by position, not by name, because they will change, but those positions should always be on
And
it.
we rewrote that part though, that
Right.
it was booster designee. It could be the
Or
president or
Right.
designee.
I mean, if Mr. Munson didn't want to be on it, then Molly is fine, she's the same as Mr. Munson would be on it.
Right.
And then in Dan's position, the assistant DSA, because should there be something, he's hands-on in student activities all the time, it would be a very needed position. The rest were all people that had credentials for the most part that were outstanding. And the fact that BB is a cross-country track guy, he also is a guy that was here, was involved in all the other sports. He can tell you about kids in every sport at school. He's not just I focus on my thing. Deedsey, who got in, is already in I put it on there, VHSL Hall of Fame and the National Federation of High School Hall of Fame. And the state.
All right, time is getting late.
Well, I'm here representing the coaching collaborative, and if I don't leave with this answer, they're going to be all over me. Why wasn't there a current coach on the committee?
Well, we were at 8 as we sat. The question is, do you put even more people in it?
And I think if you look at the bottom of the bylaws, it says that the bylaws can be amended as needed. So, so maybe that is something that down the road.
But it said 11.
But for now, these bylaws were presented in May, and
But when these names were put forward a long time ago, that I had no, I mean, dude, if someone says, hey, step down, you're not gonna twist my arm. Like Mr. Munson said, I volunteer. I mean, this isn't something I sought out to do. For some reason, they think I'm important, okay?
Just feels like a debate, because I just asked this question, a straight question, and I just wonder why?
Was this done to be a
No,
club?
why wasn't there a current coach on the committee?
For the next 10 years, no.
Can I reword the question? So, no one's asking anyone to leave. There was 8, correct?
I think that's what the number is.
The bylaws said there can be 11.
There could be.
Why,
There were 8 right there.
was there a reason why the other 3 were not filled?
Because we've gotten so far in this particular year, if I remember correctly from the first meeting, it was just stay the course this first one, and then we'll just start expanding it out. But I'd have to go back and check the notes of the meeting.
Is that the answer?
I think the most important thing though is it's all for good cause. I know people are, let's be honest, pissed off because coaches weren't involved and players weren't on there and this person's not on there, but in reality, who gives a shit? It's all for the good of the school, and if you don't think that you want to be coaches on there, they can be on it next year. Or if you want to nominate other people, they can be on it. So, but I think overall it is prickly a little bit, but I don't really care because I'm a Jersey boy, so I'm used to it. But I think that it's all a good thing. If nothing, vindictive or bad was ever going to come out of it or was trying to come out of it, I think everybody was only trying to do good. And somebody had to finally take a step, so they did, and that's that. It is what it is now.
All right, does anyone else want to say anything? Okay, we'll consider the Hall of Fame matter closed for this evening. I'm sure it will be discussed at some point in the future. And we have